corrected.
So unfortunately the phone doesn't get all of our faces very well.
That's alright.
Really
I'm ugly anyways.
Please turn next right.
So we are going to a job this morning in Chatham, Illinois. So that's about an hour and a half from Peoria. So we got a little bit of time to do this live stream. Hopefully we don't have any problems with signal. But yeah, so we definitely got a lot to talk about. So today's stream is called Stupid. And so, like, on one hand, a very stupid and worthless person is the reason we no longer have our studio. But we are working on fixing that and getting, make videos like people. Companies that I work for, like, not necessarily the one that we're doing a job for this morning, but another one.
To turn left.
I was watching a movie with my dad to try and call me because they wanted to confirm a job on Monday. First off, I'm a grown-ass man, and if I tell you I'm going to be somewhere, that's exactly when and where I'm going to be. So I don't want to fucking hear it about, oh, you need to confirm the job. No, fuck you. When I accepted your job,
turn left after 800 feet.
That's when I told you that's my confirmation. So, but either way, so one of the things I started this week was, well, I got a flip phone. Yeah, I'm practicing for when I turn into a senior citizen. But, about 5 years from now. But, yeah, so that's just something I'm experimenting with. Actually, I'm trying to make daily posts about it on Facebook, but I needed, again, stupid people. So the other day, I had made a post in a group, in the group No One Wants to Work, and I replied to one. So what started out as a post saying they had an employee that is on a flip phone that doesn't support any sort of MFA app. So that's actually a twofold problem, because the first problem is, why are you as a company expecting your employees to install an app on their personal device that may or may not track them? Because that's the big concern that most people are going to have, is you're wanting to put this app on my phone, but why?
Yeah.
And it's like, so I'm completely on. It's like, first off, phones are not expensive anymore. Not if you're a business. I mean, and they can be, but
if you're an employer and you're expecting somebody to use their personal device for work-related, then you're wrong.
I mean, and it's like providing a phone to use, or you should have some sort of a kiosk or time clock that they can punch into when they get into the job. They shouldn't be using their personal device. Same way with just a multi-factor authentication. Honestly, a token, even
turn right after 800 feet onto I-74 East.
Whether it's a YubiKey or something, that displays a code on it, you're looking at $20 or less. So there's literally no excuse.
Please turn second right.
I don't even know if they cost anywhere near $20. I remember you used to be able to get the Blizzard authenticators from Blizzard for WoW for like $5.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, it's like they're not expensive and they're still cheap flip phones. I knew that flip phones without data plans are conditions of parole for some
Please
people.
Follow the road for 8 miles.
Those are something that makes sense for people with various learning disabilities that for whatever reason it just doesn't work out for them to use a smartphone because it's too much for them. Or maybe they're just really, really poor and that's all they can afford. But that's actually been being erased too, at least here in America, because you can get a smartphone for free as an Obama phone and it doesn't cost you anything. But the point is, I just opened up the forum to just discuss, hey, what are reasons people use flip phones? And I didn't expect it to evolve into me going out and purchasing one, but yeah.
Or you getting banned from a group.
Yeah, that too. So essential. So first off, No One Wants to Work was started somewhere around the pandemic in 2020, and they started off as a really good group. It's something that a lot of Facebook groups have turned into. And I'm not saying that I have a problem with people who lean to the left or who are blatant leftists. That's not the issue. The issue that I have with this specific type of person is you get people who are immature and shouldn't be running groups, who have no idea how to handle differing opinions. For example, I have a good number of leftist friends that we can have a healthy debate, we can have conversations, they're intelligent people, we are still friends, and they add to conversations, and, well, they're good people, and I don't have a single problem. But then you get somebody like this, who, in this group, I'm pretty sure this guy was just not even using his real name, but, which that's a whole other issue by itself.
The whole thing seemed rather obvious to me that somebody was going to scam somebody.
Yeah, well, we're not talking about the scammer here. No, we're talking about me getting banned from No One Wants to Work right now. And so, like, yeah, so what happened was, like, so I just said, here's reasons I've seen, you know, what are other reasons people do this. And, you know, so this guy that was a, you know, that claimed I had 20 years of IT, which I question that, but whatever. You know, gave some really good advice about the MFA stuff. I'm like, cool, yeah, you know, like, I had nothing to add to that part of the conversation because he was right on the fucking nose. There was nothing he left out. And at any rate, yeah, so, but when I, you know, he jumped to this weird conclusion that somehow I was a jerk that was assuming that people who use flip phones are only those things, they're just some sort of bad people. And it's like, no, I was asking a question. And then there was a moderator in a group that immediately jumped to the same conclusion too. I think those two were buddies, but at any rate, yeah, so like,
I mean, snowflakes flock together anyways.
They do, but long story short, I couldn't have an intelligent conversation, and
probably misgendered him.
No, but I do know that while this was going down, I knew that this mod was going to do something, so I started collecting screenshots, like down to the, you know, like very detailed screenshots, because that's what I do. A lot of times I've been wrong about when a mod's about to ban me, but sometimes, like now, like that time, I got it right. But at any rate, I'm not even really that upset. Like, I was pissed because at the time, because it's like, okay, these people are misunderstanding me, but it's like, okay, but does it really matter? And the answer is no. But at any rate, so I think it was the next day I go into, this is an IT support group, which actually has intelligent people and links, and No One Wants to Work was making, but they were such a minority, and most people had valuable things to add to the conversation. So one of those things that I learned was people were going to try to have my personal cell be my personal cell, because I've done so much independent contracting, I've done so much business with nothing to do with, like, literally most of my friends and family don't actually call me on my cell number. I would say about 2, maybe 3 people do. So when the other 20 calls I get per day are usually people that I don't really care to hear from, not that way, almost always
Work-related.
Yeah, it's almost always work-related.
During the time when you're trying to unwind and decompress.
Exactly, like 7:30 p.m. on a Saturday when I'm watching Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 with my dad.
And it's never a good work-related call at those times. It's always either somebody bitching about something or somebody wanting something that you've already given them. You gotta give. Oh, no, wait.
In the counter, leaving me and them. Yeah, like they literally, I don't think they use the word intrusive calls, but they use something along those lines, basically telling me that if I don't confirm with them, I'm going to get periodic calls throughout the weekend until I answer. And it's like, no, the hell with you.
Well, let's be realistic. Any call on a Saturday that's work-related
is intrusive.
And redundant, to the point of which they're just calling to make sure that you're going to go to the very specific thing that you chose to say you're going to go to, sent renegotiated terms to the company
Yeah.
in regards to, and agreed to those terms. Just want to make sure that you're actually going to be there.
Yeah, and it's stupid. And it's like, and a lot of this is these platforms that I use, like, and it's just, it doesn't
Bear
matter,
right
Field Nation
after
and
1/2
Work
mile
Market.
onto I-155
So-
south.
Field Nation and Work Market have a mechanism where 24 hours before the job is, the tech is able to confirm that they're going to go to the job site. That because a long-standing rule on especially Field Nation was up until that 24-hour window, you can cancel the job.
Contract.
At no penalty to you.
Please bear next right.
Where the only way it's going to look bad on you is if they realize you're withdrawing from a ton of jobs.
Okay.
And that makes
sense.
You know, I'm not against the concept of the confirmation, but you know, this was well more than that before that point, and threatening me with calls to harass me all weekend. It's like, no.
Yeah, very blatantly saying, I'm going to harass you until you answer.
Yeah, and it's like, and I got
Follow the road 4 miles.
I felt relaxed, and I woke up and I realized I don't have to watch my phone yet, and I was dreading having to do it. And it's like, and again, I woke up feeling pretty good this morning because I still haven't turned it off, even though I'm using it to do the stream. But yeah, I mean, I've unplugged, and it's like, you know, I'm setting these boundaries with these companies that between the hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. you're not able to reach me. I'm not going to let you reach me outside of these hours.
Yeah.
You know, you're off the clock, that time is yours. And so, between the fact that a lot of employers don't know how to respect that anymore, because a lot of employers feel they can just call you at any given moment to tell you your coming-based job. People don't, you know, the people who are trying to get a hold of you all they know is they want to get a hold of you. All they know is they're used to dealing with larger companies that do probably work 24/7, or at least with more consistency than a solopreneur can commit to.
Yeah.
And you know, so yeah, it's a lot of work when you're self-employed. You're spending a lot of time just interacting with your clientele. But what nobody figures out right out the gate is how to set healthy boundaries, and that was one of those things that I had forgotten how to set those boundaries. And I've been trying over the years to have a work phone and a business cell, and I was just going in the wrong direction. Like, I recently decided to let go of a business cell that I had for our business because we don't use them.
Yeah.
You know, like, again, our personal cells were just being used for business. Anybody who's done business with me has the number that I've had for the last 5 years as my personal cell that's went with me everywhere I go. So, I mean, and it doesn't bother me to have that number associated with business, but in order to separate, in order to put boundaries, that technology in society.
One of the biggest things is having information readily accessible in the palm of your hands with a smartphone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you have a question about anything, Google.
Exactly, and you know, and the other thing that the smartphone society, as I call it, has facilitated is instant gratification.
Yeah, or you need to learn how to do something. YouTube.
Yeah, and it's like it's this whole instant gratification problem. You go into you know, you're in a situation where you need to look something up, or you need to order something, or you're trying to find something, or you're asking a question.
Like what I'm doing right now, which is my meds on the VA's website.
So they, and because people are accustomed to instant gratification, so it used to be that, like, if you were for example, if you were, like in the 90s, if you were ordering something from a company, it probably wasn't online, it was probably over the phone, or you were mailing in a form. So aside from, especially if you were mailing in a form, It could take a week or more for that letter to get there, but then it would take. We all want instant gratification. Most companies anymore don't have paper applications, and as much as I want to say I understand that, I really don't, because there's a lot of people that don't apply to jobs as much as they'd like, because still in 2023 having internet access with a device that you can fill an application out, well, that's not as commonplace as it should be. There's people who have shitty ass phones that can't go to sites. They'll just say, well, just give me your resume and your phone number and whatever. And Indeed.com's actually taken a lot of that pain away, but there's still companies that don't want to use Indeed's platform for handling applications because they want to use their own, and that's its own conversation. I always found that annoying. I don't care that it's, you know, a big company. It's like, no, you can use the system that your people are using.
And there's so many job websites out there, as far as each one's got different postings, each one's got different formats, each one's got different things that they want.
And yeah, so, but yeah, back to the shipping thing. So Sophia's posting and saying that she's having issues with shipping over in Australia. And it's like, so it's not just America where weird things happen with shipping.
Well, nobody wants to work.
No, they don't.
The post office downtown.
Nobody wants to hire. That's the other problem. Hell, they wanted to. There were plenty. Like, for an example, there were companies that would use that money for a parking lot, because part of the terms of the PPP loan was, we're going to loan you this money. We're probably going to forgive it, and as long as you can prove that you tried to hire somebody, if nobody gets hired, you don't have to pay us back. And of course, it's like, cool. We need new office chairs. We need new computers.
Or the guy that I work for, I need to put a addition onto my house, and
let's remodel a waiting room and put in a nice big screen TV, and just stuff that has nothing to do with hiring employees. And but yeah, so just a lot of scammy shit that happened during that. But yeah, so speaking of scams, so there's another group that I'm in. There's also Facebook. This is one of the reasons I like the idea of disconnecting, because there's so much drama on Facebook anymore. So there's a group I'm in called Cell Phone Repair Shop Talk. And there's actually a few groups with that exact name, but this is specifically the one run by Mobile Centrics. And so for those of you not in these groups, use cell phones. Hey, who's got some iPhones for sale? I need some to sell in my store. And so that's a really common thing that those groups are used for. Of course, you've all of the details, and I don't care digs the specifics, but what I can say is I think both were assholes. Someone named Ben Kelly, and I don't know where he is. I'm just assuming that the bare minimum in another state, could be on the other side of the country, whatever. Either way, they're not in the same immediate area. And so I'm going to walk you through this, and then we'll discuss. Because there was so much fuckery that happened on both sides. Like, first off,
a lot of idiocy too.
Yeah, first off, Ben got kicked out of the group rightfully. He shouldn't be in there. He shouldn't be allowed to do business with people if this is what he thinks is okay. But also, while Lauren was made whole, I'm not sure that I would do business with her either, just because of the amount of noise she made. So, like,
how do we know they're not working together?
I don't think so. But at any rate, so she wanted to sell Ben $7,000 worth of phones. That's fine. That's normal. That happens in the group all the time. But right after that part is where all of the fuckery starts. So first off, she admitted in the group she doesn't have an LLC, so she's doing all of this with her personal account. She's already had a problem with her old bank having a problem with her doing high dollar transactions. and rightfully so. That's management and fraud detection is what are your patterns. And if you're spending, I don't know, $2,000 a month for rent and another $1,000 a month between bills and other stuff, and then whatever else, and then all of a sudden you jump into receiving $7,000 to $10,000 at a time from people, along with several $200, $300 incoming.
Yeah, cash payments and wire transfers.
Exactly. Your bank's automatically and rightfully going to think something's wrong. And so, that's why you have an LLC, why you set up with a business. You have that conversation with your bank about what kind of business you run, because they generally know what kind of transactions to expect.
And what kind of steps you need to take and precautions you need to have as far as tax liability as well.
And you don't even have to have an LLC to have admitting to having bank problems like that. Just screams, I'm not good at doing business, and I probably shouldn't. So she asked Ben to send him the cash, cold hard cash, to ship it to him. Now, I don't know if you've ever shipped anything, but one of the things they tell you never to ship is cash.
It's cash.
Because if the package gets lost, well, that's cash that's lost.
Yeah, why would she not take a cashier's check or a money order, which is just as good as cash, but insured?
Exactly. At any rate, she asked this guy to send him cash, which, first off, offered in terms, pay on delivery. Never done business before. $7,000 is a lot of money, especially when you're somebody where she also admitted she makes less than $1,000 a month doing this business. Obviously, fixing phones is something she does on the side, so she has another job. And again, trying to run all this through her personal account screams potential tax evasion. Not accusing her of that, but it definitely sounds like...
Oh, I am.
But it definitely sounds fishy. And it's like, okay, but...
Well, in one sentence, to say you only do $1,000 a month in business this way.
How do you get $7,000 of inventory that you're going to sell to somebody?
Yeah, $7,000 wholesale.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. So, like, in just to be defensive, that doesn't mean that she's doing this all the time. That doesn't mean that, that this wasn't something where she was building up inventory. So, for those that are unfamiliar with the industry, it's not all that uncommon for somebody to bring their phone in to be fixed, and then all of a sudden they decide not to pay because they just decided they didn't want to spend $300, $400 after they committed to it. The company has their phone. They're no longer entitled to getting their phone back, and the company has to do something to make themselves whole. So
yeah.
So they've a lot of times these are sold as part stock, repair stock, because the screen's good, the battery's good, the frame's good. There's a lot of parts that can be used, even though that phone may never be activated ever again. And but either way, so I don't know the condition of the stock. I don't care. I'm just assuming, because I know what it's like to be a business that small. I know what it's like, like what could happen to cause me to have $7,000 worth of inventory.
Yeah, that's 10 phones?
Exactly. And 10 phones is not, especially if you're doing phones.
Well, that means they were at least current generation.
Yeah, I mean, all it takes is, in the last 6 months, 10 people leaving their phones behind.
10 people leaving their iPhones or their...
Yeah, and so statistically, that number makes sense. So, again, I'm not accusing her of being illegitimate. Our shop opened up.
Yeah.
6 months later. But at any rate, but they both agree that he's going to send her cash. And it's whatever. That's between them, right? Why would I give you... So you never ever offer credit terms to somebody unless A, you can afford to lose that, and B, you have the means to pursue that person legally. If neither of those conditions is true.
And C, you have a rapport with that person.
Well, yeah, the history should be there. But the point is, so And you think that this is getting like gets worse than it sounds like it's about to, because here's what happens next. So Lauren gives this guy a different address, gives Ben a completely different name and address that's not hers, and to someone named Helga something, I can't remember. And so Ben writes it out to Helga, puts the label just like Lauren asks, and it's like, okay, as far as I know, he hasn't said anything, so I'd love to hear his 2 cents on this. But to me, if somebody was asking me to send $7,000 cash and then send it to a name that's not the person I'm doing business, I'm going to automatically assume that I'm
about to take part in something real fucking illegal.
Yeah, like there's something wrong here. It's like, okay, no. If you're waiting on 7 YouTubers like Scammer Payback or Kid Bogan, you know that a lot of these actual scammers will flat out tell their victims to hide cash and things and send it out. And it's like, dude, like, we never ever send cash in the mail. So the fact that she was asking that was scammy to begin with. And
the name change and the address change.
So fast forward to, okay, so now she's got the box. Now she knows what's happened. Now she's pissed. So the note too, by the way, somebody else in the group had posted a note that was on Ben's, where the handwriting, like, when you're taking that kind of money, you need to be a business. Like, there's a certain point where you're doing transactions enough to where you basically have to have an LLC in order to continue to do business. You ran into that this year.
And I mean, if it was something illegal, what's he got? He's left standing there with, I was told to send $7,000 by this lady through the mail in cash.
Yeah, and it's like...
And then at the last minute it was changed to, I'm sending it to this other lady at this other address.
Yeah. And it's like, so I don't know that his name being dragged through the mud was right either, but it's like, you can't, and I don't know either of them. I think they're both assholes, but I'm also not thinking they're both complete assholes. I think...
Now, did he confirm that he received all 10 cell phones
so the only,
as advertised?
Yeah, I shitload of noise, and that was, I don't know that was necessarily right. I found it annoying, but at the same time, enlightening. So here's what happens next. So by the time I see the post, this was yesterday, I'm assuming this was 2 weeks since all of it began. So in the last 2 weeks, she was trying to get him to make it right with her. Just, hey, you owe me money, can you send it? You know, nothing unreasonable, so he owes her $7,000, right?
Yeah.
She has to make a stink in the group where his name's being dragged through the mud. I mean, rightfully so, because he didn't send money. He got the product, and all he sent was a bag of rice with a shitty note that makes no sense. And it's like, okay, you know, he received product, and and conveniently, he's having issues. He's out of town. He's having family issues, and these things are right out of a scammer's playbook for what people do when they don't want to make it right with people. So yeah, so either way, she goes into the group several times yesterday. The way I had read it, I don't know what changed. I wasn't following. You know, so that's when I found out there were 30 people who vouched for this guy. So a bunch of things went wrong. She goes into the show, like in her first post, I remember reading this yesterday morning around this time. She called out, hey, all of you a-holes that said this guy was good, that vouched for him, he scammed me money. Why don't you pay me what he owes me because you said he was good?
I'd have told her right where she's...
Because they're that confident that this person is good. And,
but what is vouching for somebody in a group? It's, yes, I've done business with them. Yes, my transaction went according to plan.
It's not the same thing. Like, if you're that worried about reputation, you know, I mean, it's fine to ask because there are a lot of obvious scammers, and if people don't talk about it, then people will continue to get taken. That's why those voucher posts exist to begin with. But yeah, so Either way, fucking. So here's what I find out this morning. Not only did Ben come out of the woodwork and pay half his bill, somehow, hopefully not sending cash, hopefully she just woke up and let him pay another way, but paying half is still bullshit, but better than zero. Unless he hasn't received product.
Yeah.
But then, so like, what's that potential risks? You know, yeah, that really sucks. That $7,000 worth of business she potentially would have completely lost. But at the same time, that should have been a $7,000 lesson to why you don't do any of the things that she did.
Yeah.
I mean, again, like if I'm, you know, doing business straight and narrow all the time, and I know what's normal, and all of a sudden someone's like, no, I want you to send cash. I'm like, no, fuck you. I don't want the product done. Because you're not, you know, if you need time to go form an LLC and get the...
Or if you need time to take your Cash App and switch it from personal to a business account.
Because again, you can go and open up a business account under your Social Security number long enough to get the money you need to then take that $7,000 and use however much you need of it to form your LLC. And now
Most online banking like apps have a option to...
Well, so for me, what pissed me off was having to read this shit over and over and over. Like, I woke up and people were still talking about it. That's why I'm talking about it. This is my 2 cents, and after this, I'm done talking about it. And it's like, no. So if you're going to do business with somebody, so part of my background is working in the web hosting industry, which is very, very prone to fraud. And because first off, that business is 100% online, 100% virtual, and the number of illegal things you can do with a web hosting account is really high. You can spam, you can do all sorts of stuff.
All the things?
Yeah, and it's like, you know, so web hosting companies have policies and procedures in place to verify a customer's identity. So if I'm selling you a bunch of phones like that, say I'm Lauren, right? And you're Ben, and I don't know who the fuck you are. I've never done business. But here's what we're gonna do. First off, you're gonna pay for your product beforehand.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna send as soon as the money is in my possession, I will give you a tracking number. I will show you the phones. I will give you the list of serial numbers upon payment, but I can at least show you the box with all the phones in them, so you know what you're getting and what to expect once the money hits my account. Whether you pay with PayPal, whether you pay with, you know, so options that...
A transaction, like a sale, they don't get the money until the shipment is tracked to their door.
Depends on how you set that up.
Yeah, if you do it as you were selling somebody a product, or you're purchasing a product from somebody, your door, and once it's delivered, you have 72 hours to say yes, it was satisfactory, no, it wasn't satisfactory, or PayPal automatically assumes after the 72 hours that it was satisfactory and releases those funds.
So, glad you mentioned that, because that mechanism is wonderful, but it's not what typically gets used, especially in these groups. So most of the time what's happening is they're logging into PayPal and they're just sending the money as a money transfer and hoping the other person does the right thing.
Well, even if it's the first time you send somebody that amount of money, it's still going to be held by PayPal.
Yeah, but at any rate, we're talking zero trust payment methods. A web hosting company isn't going to take PayPal if fraud detectors are going off. So we're talking about the zero trust ones, the absolute, I don't want to give you a single avenue to dispute it except suing my ass.
So Cash App.
Nope. You can get that reversed too. And so Western Union or MoneyGram cannot be reversed. That's as good as cash.
Cash App, if you send somebody if you directly send a individual money, once it's sent, Cash App will not reverse it.
No, that's not true. So, yes and no. First off, Cash App isn't going to reverse it. You can, however, complain to your bank and get your bank to reverse it. That happens all the time. I also know because I've had to do that. And so...
But how do you complain to your bank to get your bank to reverse it when the transaction from your bank to Cash App is just a transfer?
Unauthorized transaction. You can make the story sound good, and your bank will treat it like they would. So, yeah. But I'm saying, like, again, Cash App is not a zero trust mechanism. It's supposed to be, but it isn't. And so... You got Western Union, you got MoneyGram. Those are the old-fashioned ways. If a web host, for example, if you've got a scammer that's trying to set up a hosting account, because they're going to use this for spam, they're going to use this to run scams. They're probably even paying for it with a stolen credit card. And when you use a stolen credit card for a transaction, you're absolutely going to get that transaction reversed and disputed within that first week, 99.999% of the time. And most of the time, you have 30 to 45 days, depending on card issuer, to dispute that transaction. You're absolutely going to get that disputed. So now not only as a business are you out that money, but you also have another fee from your card processor, which is usually at least $75, and those add up. So again, zero trust transaction. If you go through MoneyGram or Western Union, you're making that person actually spend the money, because the idea is they have the money, but you're also they can't dispute that. The only way they're going to be able to have any form of dispute is if they take you to court legally. So if they're doing illegal shit, very, very high chances are they're not going to go through the court system, because they know that their other shit's going to come through the woodwork, and who has time for that? So, or they're in another country, and that's just a lost cause for most people. And so those are, but whatever. Another one is cryptocurrency. It's still used as valid currency, no matter what your opinion is of it. But crypto transactions are like cash. Once that transaction goes through, you can't dispute it. It's gone.
Yeah.
So again, that's a zero trust way of accepting payments, is accepting crypto. And so on our hosting side, for someone who requires offline payment, that rings our fraud detectors, we're going to require crypto or Western Union. So so those are the most traditional. The other options, and you had mentioned earlier, cashier's check, money orders. Money orders sucks for a lot of stuff, just because usually the biggest I know you can get is like $1,000 a whack. But again, if you're doing
You can get money orders for any amount of money.
Yeah, but it's like I'm just saying, it's like there's a lot of places that do have limitations on how large your money orders can be. Walmart says no greater than $1,000 for theirs, and that uses Western Union system. But at any rate, again, you do the money order, you do that's traceable. Now all of a sudden you've got a receipt. So if something happens and the wrong person gets it, or the package gets stolen, at least you can get that reissued.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong, that's better than cash. As soon as you, the recipient, gets that money order, you go things that you absolutely don't trust them. But even so, if you have good policies in place, like if you do have, credit card processing.
Money orders, so even after somebody cashes it, you can report it stolen,
Yeah.
and they will absolutely cancel that money order and go after if it was cashed, go after whoever cashed it as fraud.
Yeah.
But you'll get reimbursed for that money order.
Yeah. But it's like, it's still a zero trust. Most people who are scamming aren't any sort of repair shop knows that you gotta have security cameras. It's good to have, you make your customers agree to terms and conditions, and it's the same way when you do business with people online. Have a contract for the sale, so that way it's bulletproof. So when you have something go fishy, like if Lauren had a contract with Ben, and I guarantee you she didn't, but say she did, all of these things could have been agreed to in the contract.
I mean, it all depends on what state they reside in.
Yeah. But still, there's a very good chance that a contract could have governed that. Although, to be honest with you, the only unenforceable part that I see a problem with would have been the issue of accepting payment in cash being mailed, because that's just stupid. But my point is, you can fight against scammers, but ultimately, the lesson here is, there's all sorts of lessons.
Don't be stupid.
Don't be stupid, but if you've never done business with somebody before, the last thing you do is extend them a line of credit. The reason why even your bank gives you a credit card is because they can look up your credit score, they can check your payment history, they can check all your,
they know how much money you have in your
financial
account.
health is a public record that they can check to determine if they should extend you a red cent. And that's what I'm saying. It's if you're a small business, you don't have access to necessarily the same tools for transactions like these, but you can still protect yourself.
Yeah, if it smells like shit, looks like shit, sounds like shit, it's probably shit. You shouldn't put it in your mouth.
What would have happened was, if I was Ben and Lauren said, send me cash, I would have been said, no, fuck you. We're not doing this.
Yeah, no fuck.
And prosecute that. We should follow up on that. I bet you they might tell you. They should, though. That was a federal offense, so.
Well, no, I'm sure that Walgreens is going to fry that individual. And FedEx, for that matter.
Yeah, this guy is fucked.
Imagine if he would have opened up a box of 7,000.
Yeah, people were dumb. Oh yeah, let's see if this button stops it. No, it's not. I have no idea how to stop this fucking thing.